Jack Harmon wiped sweat from his forehead as he stared at the classified military files on his computer screen. His small garage workshop was lit only by the glow of monitors and the soft blue light of his experimental equipment. The files described something called the Chronos engine, a theoretical device capable of bending time itself. "This is it," he whispered, scrolling through equations that government scientists had failed to solve for decades. Jack's hands trembled slightly as he worked, not from fear, but from exhaustion. 3 days without proper sleep, fueled by coffee and desperation. The medical bills for his son's rare disease treatment sat in a stack on his workbench, each page stamped with red, final notice warnings. He connected the last wire to his prototype. The device was small, about the size of a microwave, with a crystalline core that pulsed with faint energy. Nothing like the massive government projects that had failed. Sometimes smaller was better. Power levels stable, Jack muttered, checking readings on his tablet. Containment field active. He hesitated before pressing the activation button. If this worked, it would change everything. If it failed, it might kill him. Jack thought of his son's pale face in the hospital bed and pressed the button. The air shimmered. A sphere of distorted space formed above the device about 3 feet in diameter. Inside the sphere, dust particles moved backward. Jack's breath caught in his throat. He reached for a pencil and tossed it through the field. The pencil entered the sphere and immediately reversed direction, flying back into his hand. 3 minutes later, the sphere collapsed with a soft pop. "It works," Jack said, his voice breaking. "It actually works." He ran the test 5 more times, documenting everything. Each success made his heart beat faster. This technology would be worth billions, enough to save his son and secure their future forever. The knock at his garage door made him jump. Jack quickly covered the device with a tarp before opening the door. A woman stood there, tall, with sharp eyes and expensive clothes that seemed out of place in his working-class neighborhood. "Mr. Harmon," she said with a slight smile. "My name is Diane Frost. May I come in?" Jack blocked the doorway. "How do you know my name?" "I know many things, Mr. Harmon, including what you've been building in here." She nodded toward the covered device. "The Chronos engine, a working prototype if my information is correct." Jack felt cold fear spread through his chest. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Please," Frost said, her smile never reaching her eyes. "My employers have been monitoring quantum fluctuations in this area for weeks. We know what you've accomplished where others failed." "Who are your employers?" "People who can pay you more money than you've ever dreamed of." She handed him a business card with only a logo. "Quantum Dynamics Corporation. We're prepared to offer you $2 billion for exclusive rights to your technology." Jack's mind raced. $2 billion, his son's treatment, a lifetime of security. "Why would anyone pay that much?" he asked. "Because controlling time is worth any price," Frost said. "Think about it, Mr. Harmon. Your son could have the best care in the world." Jack's resolve crumbled at the mention of his son. "How did you know about him?" "We do our research." She extended her hand. "Do we have a deal?" Jack hesitated, then shook her hand. "Yes." The moment their hands touched, a blinding white light filled the garage. The air cracked with energy as 3 armored figures materialized in a triangle formation. Their suits looked like nothing Jack had ever seen, with shifting surfaces that bent light around them. All 3 aimed weapons at Jack and Frost. One stepped forward, the helmet visor clearing to reveal a stern face. "By order of the Temporal Council," the figure announced, "you are both under arrest for crimes against causality." Jack opened his eyes to blinding white light. His head pounded as he tried to sit up on a hard metal bench. The room around him was perfectly white with no visible doors or windows. It felt sterile and cold, like a hospital, but without any equipment. "Where am I?" he asked, his voice echoing slightly. A section of wall slid open, and a tall man in a gray uniform walked in. He had short silver hair and a face marked with old scars. His uniform bore no insignia except for a small hourglass symbol on the collar. "I am Commander Alexei Volkov, Temporal Enforcement Division," the man said in a clipped accent. You are currently 200 years in your future, Mr. Harmon. Jack tried to stand but felt dizzy. That's impossible, says the man who built a time manipulation device in his garage. Volkov's face remained hard. Your Chronos engine was crude but effective. The first working prototype in your timeline. My son, Jack said suddenly. I need to get back to him. He's sick. Your son died 3 days after your arrest, Volkov said flatly. That is now history. Jack lunged at Volkov but immediately collapsed as pain shot through his body. Volkov hadn't moved. Neural restraint, Volkov explained. You cannot attack anyone here. Jack curled on the floor, tears streaming down his face. Why am I here? Why not just stop me and leave me in my time? Because your invention eventually destroys civilization across multiple timelines. Volkov pressed his wrist device and a holographic screen appeared in the air. The screen showed cities burning, people aging rapidly until they turned to dust, buildings collapsing as time accelerated around them, armies fighting with weapons that froze enemies in time bubbles. We call it the Chronos Wars, Volkov said. Once weaponized, your technology killed billions. The council was formed to prevent this from ever happening again. Jack watched in horror as the images continued. I just wanted to save my son. Many great disasters begin with good intentions. Volkov helped Jack back to the bench. Come. There are others you should meet. Volkov led Jack through corridors of the same white material. They passed guards in armor like those who had arrested him. Finally, they entered a large room where several people sat at tables under guard. Fellow prisoners, Volkov explained. Scientists and entrepreneurs who misused time technology. A thin man with wild eyes approached. Another new one? Did they show you the war footage? It's fake, all fake. Guards quickly pulled the man away. Jack noticed a woman sitting alone in the corner. Diane Frost. You, Jack said, moving toward her. You tricked me. Frost smiled coldly. I offered you what you wanted. Volkov stepped between them. Agent Frost is not what she appears. She works for a temporal terrorist organization that manipulates inventors across history. You're with them? Jack asked, confused. I'm undercover, Frost said. Or I was, until your arrest triggered emergency extraction protocols. Volkov nodded. Agent Frost has been tracking a group that wants to monopolize time technology. They find brilliant minds like yours and exploit them. Jack's mind raced. So she's one of you? And you arrested us both to maintain your cover? Precisely, Volkov said. But now we need your help. You understand your technology better than anyone. Help us stop them before they cause another timeline collapse. Jack thought of his son, now dead for 2 centuries. What's in it for me? Help us, and the council might allow you to return to your time, Volkov said. With certain memories removed, of course. Jack looked at Frost, who gave him a slight nod. Fine, Jack said. I'll help you. Later, alone in his cell, Jack examined the small neural implant they had given him to study. The technology was far beyond his understanding, but one thing was clear. It could manipulate personal timelines. Jack smiled to himself. If he could master this device, he wouldn't need the council's permission to go back. He could save his son and stop Frost's organization. What Volkov didn't know was that Jack had seen something in those war footage images. His son, grown up, fighting on the wrong side. Jack hit the training room floor hard, his breath knocked out of him. This was the 5th time in an hour that Kyle Reeves had put him down. Get up, Reeves ordered. The combat specialist stood ready, his muscular frame showing no signs of fatigue. Time distortions will disorient you worse than any punch I throw. Jack struggled to his feet, muscles burning. 3 weeks of this brutal training had changed him. His body was harder, his reflexes sharper. Again, Jack said, raising his fists. Reeves activated his wrist device. The air around them warped as he created a small time bubble. Inside it, Reeves moved at double speed while Jack struggled through what felt like thick mud. Jack focused on his neural implant, the small device now connected to his brainstem. He visualized his personal timeline and pushed back against the distortion. His movements gradually normalized. Reeves nodded with approval as Jack blocked his next attack. Better. You might survive the mission after all. Later, Jack stood before the Council's mission briefing room. 5 stern-faced members sat behind a curved table. Commander Volkov stood at a holographic display showing a compound surrounded by forest. This is Frost's base of operations, Volkov explained. Your team will infiltrate during their annual security reset. Agent Frost has provided access codes. Jack studied the other team members. Reeves, 2 temporal agents named Chen and Rodriguez, and Frost herself. Our objective? Jack asked. Destroy their prototype Chronos engine before mass production begins, Volkov said, and capture their research data. Jack nodded, but something felt wrong. Why would they need him for this? Any soldier could plant explosives. The mission began at dawn. Their temporal jump placed them half a mile from the compound. Jack felt sick from the jump, but his training helped him recover quickly. Security systems go offline in 5 minutes, Frost whispered as they approached the perimeter. We move then. The compound looked like a normal research facility, not the headquarters of temporal terrorists. Guards patrolled with standard weapons, not time tech. They slipped inside during the security reset. Jack followed Frost through empty corridors until they reached a sealed lab door. Plant the charges here, Frost ordered, typing on a keypad. Jack hesitated. Let me see what's inside first. I need to confirm it's actually a Chronos engine. The door slid open. Inside was not a lab, but a server room filled with databanks. This isn't right, Jack said, turning to Frost. Where's the engine? Frost smiled coldly. There isn't one. Not yet. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Jack heard gunfire from the direction they had come. You set us up, Jack realized. Not exactly, Frost said, drawing her weapon. I'm completing my mission. The Council didn't tell you everything. Jack backed away. What's the real mission? This facility belongs to Quantum Dynamics Corporation. They're developing time technology, but they're not terrorists, they're competition. Frost gestured to the servers. The Council doesn't want to stop time travel. They want to control it completely. More gunfire echoed closer now. Jack heard Reeves shouting. The Council is a corporate monopoly from the future, Frost continued. They eliminate any potential rivals across all timelines. Jack's mind raced. So who do you really work for? People who believe time technology should be free, not controlled. Frost tossed him a data drive. This contains the truth and something else you'll want. Advanced medical protocols that could have saved your son. Jack caught the drive as explosions rocked the building. Choose a side, Jack, Frost said, backing toward a hidden exit. But choose quickly. The door behind them burst open. Reeves entered, bleeding from a shoulder wound. Frost! He shouted, raising his weapon. Jack had seconds to decide. The drive in his hand might save his son, but trusting Frost could doom the timeline. He activated his neural implant and made his choice. Jack slammed his hand against his neural implant, activating the hidden program he had coded during his training. The air around them shimmered as a temporal loop formed, trapping the server room in a 30-minute bubble. What did you do? Reeves shouted, his weapon now moving in slow motion as the bubble took effect. Buying us time, Jack said, grabbing Frost's arm. Both of you stop, I need answers. Inside the bubble, they existed slightly out of sync with normal time. Outside, they could see guards moving like blurs past the doorway. The implant will only hold this bubble for 20 minutes, Jack said. Talk fast. Frost pulled free from his grip. The Council isn't what you think. They don't prevent time wars, they start them. Lies. Reeves spat, struggling against the time distortion. The Council protects the timeline. Jack inserted Frost's data drive into a server port. Files flashed across the screen. Classified Council documents, mission reports, and medical research. The Council was formed by Quantum Dynamics 200 years from now, Frost explained. They created the first wars to justify taking control of all time technology. Jack found footage of Commander Volkov meeting with executives, planning timeline manipulations. Then he saw something that made his blood freeze. Medical files on his son. They knew about my son's disease, Jack whispered. They could have cured him. They needed you desperate, Frost said. Desperate enough to build the Chronos engine when their scientists failed. Reeves finally broke through the time distortion. Even if that's true, Frost people are worse. They want unrestricted time travel. Billions will die. We want freedom, Frost countered. Not control. Jack downloaded the files as alarms continued to blare outside their bubble. I don't trust either of you, but I know who I can't trust now. The bubble began to flicker. Jack's program was failing faster than expected. We need to move, Jack said, pulling the drive free. Reeves, I'm sorry. Jack struck Reeves with a move the man himself had taught him. Reeves dropped unconscious as the bubble collapsed completely. Guards rushed in, but Jack and Frost were already moving. They fought their way through the compound, Jack using his implant to create small time distortions that gave them an edge. There's an emergency exit through the North Lab, Frost said as they ran. They burst into a large laboratory where scientists worked on equipment Jack recognized, early Chronos engine components. You said there wasn't an engine, Jack accused. Not a working one, Frost replied as they crossed the lab. Yet. They reached the exit, but Jack stopped. Wait, I need to know who's really telling the truth. Jack connected his implant to a nearby terminal, searching for answers in the facility's database. What he found shocked him. Volkov, Jack said, staring at the screen. He's not just working for the Council. He's planning to betray them. The screen showed Volkov's secret communications with quantum dynamics. His plan was to use Jack's knowledge to build an advanced Chronos engine, then travel back to prevent the Council from ever forming. He wants a timeline where time technology is completely unregulated, Jack realized. Where quantum dynamics controls everything. Frost checked her weapon. That would cause exactly the wars the Council claims to prevent. Jack's implant suddenly pulsed with pain. He received an emergency message from the medical monitoring system he'd linked to his son's timeline. My son, Jack gasped. His condition is getting worse. The timeline is changing. Frost grabbed his arm. We need to go, now. I have to get to the Council, Jack said, his mind racing. I have to stop Volkov before he destroys everything. They escaped as security forces closed in. Jack had one desperate plan forming. He would confront Volkov directly in the Council chamber. They stole a temporal jump vehicle and set coordinates for Council headquarters. As they prepared to jump, Jack saw Reeves watching from the compound entrance, his eyes filled with betrayal. The jump activated, and reality twisted around them. When it stabilized, they stood in the Council's main chamber. Bodies lay everywhere. Council members slumped over their seats. Guards sprawled on the floor. Standing among them was Commander Volkov, holding an advanced Chronos weapon. Jack, Volkov said calmly, I've been expecting you. Blood pooled on the white floor of the Council chamber. Volkov stepped over a fallen guard, his Chronos weapon humming with energy. You should have stayed loyal, Jack, Volkov said. We could have reshaped time together. Jack pushed Frost behind him. By killing everyone who disagrees with you? They were obstacles. Volkov gestured at the dead Council members. Just like your son was an obstacle, we needed you desperate enough to build that first engine. Rage filled Jack. You let my son die on purpose. For progress. Volkov aimed his weapon. Now I'll finish what we started. Jack activated his neural implant, creating a time bubble around himself. He charged at Volkov, moving faster than normal time. Volkov fired. The energy blast slowed inside Jack's bubble but still caught him in the shoulder. Pain exploded through his body as he crashed into Volkov. They tumbled across the chamber floor. Volkov's weapon skidded away. Frost ran for it, but a second-time bubble from Volkov's implant trapped her in slow motion. You think you mastered time? Volkov laughed, blood trickling from his mouth. I've spent decades perfecting it. Volkov created another bubble that overlapped with Jack's. The competing fields shattered reality around them. They fought through fractured time, experiencing the same moments repeatedly from different angles. Jack landed a punch. Then he experienced landing it again. Then again, time looped and twisted. I will create a world without rules, Volkov shouted, his voice echoing strangely through the distortions. Time technology for those strong enough to use it. Jack saw multiple versions of himself fighting. He felt disoriented, but focused on his son's face in his mind. "You'll destroy everything," Jack gasped as Volkov's knife sliced across his chest. Jack grabbed Volkov's wrist and twisted. The knife plunged into Volkov's side. The commander stumbled back, shocked. "You can't stop progress," Volkov wheezed, blood spreading across his uniform. Jack felt his own life fading. The wound in his chest was fatal. He had minutes at most. "I can stop you," Jack said, crawling toward the central console where the Council's master Chronos engine hummed. Volkov tried to follow but collapsed. Jack reached the console and connected his neural implant directly to the system. Pain and power surged through Jack's mind. He saw everything, all timelines, all possibilities. He saw his son dying. He saw the Chronos Wars destroying civilizations. He saw himself creating the first engine in his garage. "What are you doing?" Frost called, finally free from the time bubble. "The only thing I can," Jack answered, his voice strange even to himself. Jack's consciousness merged with the Chronos engine's matrix. He became something new, a being existing across all timelines simultaneously. With this new awareness, Jack made his choice. He reached back through time and changed one critical moment, the night he discovered the Chronos engine files. In the new timeline, Jack Harmon deleted those files without reading them. He never built the engine. The technology remained theoretical for decades longer. As the timeline shifted, Jack made one more change. He directed medical research toward his son's disease. A breakthrough happened 6 months earlier than in the original timeline. His son lived. The council chamber faded around Jack. His physical body dissolved as his consciousness spread across time itself. He felt peace knowing what he had done. Years later, in a small park, an elderly Jack Harmon sat on a bench. He watched his adult son playing with 2 young children, Jack's grandchildren. His son was healthy, successful, happy. Jack didn't remember building a time machine. He didn't remember the council or Volkov or the wars that never happened. He only knew he had always felt strangely protective of time itself. A woman sat beside him on the bench. She looked familiar somehow, though Jack couldn't place her. "Beautiful family," she said, watching the children. "Yes," Jack agreed. "I'm very lucky." The woman turned to him, her eyes knowing. "The council thanks you for your sacrifice, Mr. Harmon," she whispered. "Some rules exist for a reason." She stood and walked away, leaving Jack with a strange feeling of completion. He smiled and turned back to watch his family, content in the timeline he had created.